Any world for Ruud, do you think, Grell?
I don't know. I would love to see him because I'm a big fan of him as a person and a player, obviously. But it's just like they're such in an unfair position, right? Because if they go out and win 5-2 today and we're like, it doesn't mean really that much, you know. But if they would have lost tonight, we'd have been like, what's going on? They can't lose at home to Leicester. And they put themselves sort of, by so many years of subpar results, they put themselves at this sort of, mercy of the people and the media. It's very unfair to them, I think.
No, not at all. You can't get angry if you have high standards.
But they win 5-2 and it's like, no big deal. But if they would have lost, we would have been like, they'd blow the whole thing up, you know?
You cannot be upset at that. If you have high standards that you've been judged at for so long, you have to stay to those standards. You know it as a player as well, when managers and coaches say to you, those are the standards.
Those standards and that ship sailed, man, a while back, I think.
Leicester United, Leicester, maybe the odds were against them, but with how they're doing in the league as well, doesn't look great, does it, for Steve Cooper? I mean, in terms of who's going to come in then, Nige, what do you think is going to happen with this? How quickly do you think we're going to see Ruben Amorim, or is there a chance that we see Ruud van Nistelrooy over the next couple of games, maybe just see what happens?
Well, from the few press releases that we've heard, Ruben Amorim is saying, listen, I'm in charge now, I'm going to make the decision when I want to make that decision. So he's showing that he's basically got the keys and he's in charge and he's got command of it.
Do you like that, by the way? Do you like how he's speaking to the press saying,
I like how he's speaking to the press. I'm just saying, for him, he needs to bring that same energy if he does go and become Manchester United, because it's a different kettle of fish. Like, what it means to be Manchester United is not something that people can truly easily understand. We've seen great managers come there. It's such a big club. It's a big job. So that same energy you're showing right now, that's saying you're in charge, when things start to go wrong and you start to get questioned, you need to show that same energy that you're in charge, you're the big boss of Manchester United. But I feel that for me, it's a work in progress. It's a long run. It's not going to be a quick fix. With those players there, we've just seen it's not going to be a quick fix. It's a long work in progress, and there's still a lot to do.
I think there needs to be something, taken into consideration where if they knew that Erik ten Hag was a coach that they didn't want, right, and the writing was on the wall, they've done their homework. They clearly, now they have Ruben Amorim in their sights. They've paid the release clause. But if they're going to give Ruud van Nistelrooy a chance, I feel like they would have already done so. However, if I'm Ruben, I would be like, I'm going to wait till the international break. To make the transition now, to come 2 days before, 3 days before a Chelsea match at home. Yeah. Then you got PAOK in the Europa League, and then you got Leicester again. So maybe you can get a couple good results there. But for him to make that transition from another league with his coaching staff, it's just a lot.
What happens to Van Nistelrooy, though? I mean, because he just got there, right? It's like when and now Amorim wants to come in and bring his own staff, which is understandable. He wants to bring in the guys that understand the way he works and his football philosophies. So it's kind of like when you have dinner plans with someone and they bring a friend along, right? It's not the same. It makes it awkward.
Ruud was there as well with Erik ten Hag, so maybe if you were Ruben Amorim and you're coming in, do you keep Ruud van Nistelrooy?
No, I think it's a little awkward, right?
Make him an ambassador for the club.
Can you tell the truth?
He's a massive personality and a massive person.
Can you tell the truth and act like you know footballers? No, you do not keep him.
That's what I just said.
You would not keep Ruud van Nistelrooy. That's the reality of it. Footballers
That's what I said.
Have an insecurity complex at times, especially when you become a manager.
Footballers?
Yes, they do. Footballers do.
Did you?
The quite interesting thing that keeps this conversation going is Ruben Amorim flew to London and was also potentially going to be the West Ham manager when they got rid of David Moyes. And then obviously didn't work out, had to go back and then had to go and apologise to Sporting. And also he was linked to say now that he could be the successor if Pep Guardiola eventually leaves Manchester City. So again, you've got to look at the process of how they came to this conclusion to go for Ruben Amorim. You have to go to Manchester United. You cannot turn down Manchester United, especially the manager that he is at, where he's at right now. He's not in that situation where Xavi Alonso done great job at Leverkusen, playing Champions League. Grelly will go wherever anyone will pay him.
Let me ask you a question.
You give Grelly a tenner, he'll go next to it.
Poppy, if the Premier League calls you tomorrow, are you going?
No.
Talk about a liar.
You gotta go.
Talk about a liar.
Wow.
Well, we're covering the best of everything here.
You bleed CBS blood, right? Like Grella.
Yes.
The Premier League's a big call, though. Jokes aside, you get called by the Premier League, you're going to go.
Premier League, it's
not even
Manchester
that.
United.
It's Manchester United.
It's not really Manchester.
Sorry, Manchester United, to be more clear, obviously. But the thing is, too, on the flip side of that, Man United, like with Ten Hag, he was unbelievable at Ajax and the things he accomplished in a league that's less physical, less money. Like there's a lot of differences between what goes on in Holland in the top division there and what what goes on in the Premier League.
But
And I think this
that's
is
almost the point. Who comes out of Manchester United
very
and thinks
similar.
I'm ready for the next step? This has helped me. I'm coming out of this better
can't.
than I left it.
No, but what I'm saying is for Amorim, I think it's a eerily similar hiring because, yeah, he's done fantastic in Portugal, but Portugal's not the Premier League. So you would think at a club of Man United stature, they would bring in a guy who's done it in the Premier League or a guy that's dealt with huge
But then
players.
they'll say that about Jose Mourinho. Well, in England, they didn't know too much about him, but take it that he won the Champions League with Porto, also had a stint at Barcelona, and he went there and he transformed English football. So you still got to give him a chance and opportunity.
I know, it's a one-off, though.
My biggest worry is,
That's
like
a one-off.
I say for me, it's the players currently at Manchester United that I think is the biggest problem.
So if
I
Amorim
cannot
comes
say-
in, that's what I think he has to address.
They have to give him time.
Well, they're going to have to give him time, but I don't think they're going to add anything. Like, if you're going to bring him into the team, you're like, these are the guys you have to work with. Can you have success with this team? By the way, we're going to try to shed anybody we can in the January transfer window. Anthony, if you can. But who, if these players aren't going to be part of your future, we're only going to add if we can subtract. And he's walking into that. That's the one thing. Okay, it's Manchester United. You got to go. You got to do it. I mean, it could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
But how does he buy the players over? Because that has been the problem, hasn't it? This power struggle, it seems like, between the manager and the players. So it's fine Manchester United saying, here you go, work with them. But are you worried in any way that there's going to be this big disconnect again?
I would say if I was coming into this situation, I'm sure you guys would say something similar. Less is more. You come in and try to simplify the game as much as you possibly can. I'm sure Ruud van Nistelrooy did something similar tonight, and the players responded. Obviously, get a couple of early goals, get the confidence going, but you get that less is more approach, get the foundation set. We see it with Antonio Conte with Napoli. You get the defensive side of it sorted out. That's the easiest part of the game to get sorted out, and then you work your way up the field.
You say that if you've got the players that can accomplish that defensively.
I get that.
That's the question.
No, that's the big challenge.
They're
But
not.
I think they have good players. I think they have players that want to work. I think they had players there that showed that they tried their best for Ten Hag for a long time. I mean, he was sacked a year ago. His body was just there on the sideline for forever. and the reality of the situation is that Man United has quality players. They have quality all over the place. They have a lot of quality in the building. I just think
Who's
that
the best player for Manchester United?
they're all over the place.
How many Man United players would get into Manchester City
Hold on.
now?
For instance, like they signed Zirkzee. I don't even know. When you talk to anyone who follows Man United or anyone in the building, I don't know if they knew that he's like a false nine. I think English fans thought that he was going to come in and start banging 20 goals. I mean, it's not his game. You know, then they bring in Højlund, and he's not quite ready. And I think there's guys that are just all over playing their own individual games. And sometimes it clicks and they look good, and sometimes it doesn't, and they look all over the place.
What Man United players would get into a Man City starting 11 now, or a Liverpool, or an Arsenal? That's the question you ask, because you're Manchester United. That's what you're competing against. Do you have players that will get into any of those two teams starting lineup right now?
I think if you get those Man United players on the same page, you have a few that can get into the first team.
I don't see it. Well, for what they're competing against, I don't see it. I don't see any of them getting into those sides.
Højlund can be a world-class talent. You don't go for that much money if you're just, if you're not good.
I think Bruno could slot into those teams.
Bruno is probably the only player I would say who could probably get into
Casemiro can't play there?
All right.
Rashford when he's feeling